The cold, sterile corridors of the stellar dawn were filled with quiet tension as Alya walked through them. She could feel it in the air, the fragile unity of the alliance hanging by a thread. The meeting with the rebel leaders had gone better than she expected, but she wasn't naive. Trust wasn't something that could be built in a day, and she knew that many of the factions still harbored doubts. And then there was the artifact. It sat in her quarters now, locked away. No, but she could still feel its presence, an almost palpable pull in the back of her mind, whispering to her, urging her toward something unknown. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw flashes of light, fragmented visions of distant worlds, ancient battles, and the rise and fall of civilizations. The artifact was showing her pieces of its past. But it wasn't just memories, it was a warning. As Alya approached the command center, she heard raised voices. Thane's low, commanding tone cut through the air, but someone else was shouting. She quickened her pace and stepped inside to find Thane standing toe-to-toe with General Corran, his face twisted with barely controlled anger. Corran, a decorated military strategist and one of the key leaders of Earth's defense forces, had been brought into the Alliance to provide tactical expertise. But from the beginning, Alya had sensed something off about him. He had always been ambitious, and his interest in the artifact had grown with every passing day. "What's going on here?" Alya asked, her voice sharp as she stepped between them. Corran straightened, his eyes flashing with defiance. "Captain, I was just explaining to your tactical officer that we can't keep relying on this makeshift alliance to hold the line against the Vraath. We need stronger leadership, strategic direction." Alya's eyes narrowed. "We have leadership, General, and our strategy is in place." Corran sneered. "Barely. You've managed to string together a handful of rebel ships and mercenaries, but they're not soldiers. They're not ready for the kind of war we're about to face." Thane stepped forward, his fists clenched. "We're doing what we can with what we've got. We can't force everyone into a rigid military structure, not with the kind of factions we're dealing with." Corran's gaze flicked to Thane, then back to Alya. "That's exactly the problem, Captain. You're trying to unite people who have no business being united. These colonies, these traitors, they don't care about the bigger picture. They're only in this for themselves. They'll fall apart the moment things get hard." Alya met Corran's gaze, her expression unreadable. "So, what's your solution, General?" Corran's eyes gleamed, and Alya immediately sensed the ambition behind his words. "We need to establish a more centralized command, a clear hierarchy, and we need to use the artifact to its full potential. It's the only real weapon we have against the Vraath. You know it. I know it." Alya's pulse quickened, and she took a step closer to Corran. "The artifact isn't a weapon, Corran. It's far more than that, and we're still learning how to control it." "Exactly," Corran said, his voice growing more insistent. "It's the key to this entire war, but you're too afraid to use it. You're holding back, and in doing so, you're holding us all back." Thane opened his mouth to argue, but Alya held up a hand to stop him. She could feel the weight of Corran's words pressing down on her, the truth behind his accusation. She had been hesitant, careful. The artifact's power was dangerous, and every time she touched it, she felt herself slipping further away from who she had been. But that wasn't what this was about. Corran didn't care about her caution. He wanted the artifact for himself. "You think I'm afraid?" Alya asked, her voice calm but dangerous. "You think I don't know what this artifact is capable of? I've wielded its power, General. I've felt what it can do, and it's not something you can control with brute force." Corran's face darkened. "You don't understand, Captain. You're letting your fear control you. The artifact is a tool, a weapon, and in war we use every weapon at our disposal." Alya's eyes flashed with anger. "No, General. In war we use the weapons we understand. The artifact isn't a tool for your ambition. It's not something you can just point at the enemy and fire." Corran took a step closer, his voice lowering to a dangerous whisper. "And what if you're wrong? What if you're wasting the one thing that could turn the tide in our favor? You're so caught up in your own doubts that you're willing to let humanity fall to the Vraath, just to protect your precious artifact." Alya's jaw tightened. "This conversation is over, General. I suggest you return to your quarters before I have you escorted there." Corran's eyes burned with fury, but he didn't move. For a long, tense moment, they stared each other down, the air between them crackling with unspoken tension. Then, without another word, Corrin turned and stormed out of the command center, his footsteps echoing through the corridor. Thane let out a low breath. "He's dangerous, Captain. He's obsessed with the artifact." "I know," Alya said quietly, her eyes still fixed on the door where Corrin had disappeared. "And that makes him unpredictable." Thane frowned. "What do you want to do about him?" Alya didn't answer immediately. She knew what she should do. Corrin's ambition was a threat to the Alliance, and his obsession with the artifact made him unpredictable. But at the same time, she couldn't afford to alienate one of Earth's most experienced military leaders. "We keep an eye on him," Alya said finally. "But for now, we need to focus on the Vraath. They're the real threat." Thane nodded, though the concern in his eyes remained. Understood. Later that night, Alya sat alone in her quarters, staring at the artifact. It pulsed softly in the dim light, its glow casting long shadows on the walls. She could feel it in her mind, a constant presence, a steady whisper that never went away. Corrin was right about one thing. The artifact was powerful. It could change the course of the war, but it wasn't just a weapon. It was something far more dangerous, something that could easily consume those who sought to control it. She reached out, her fingers brushing the smooth surface of the artifact. Immediately, she felt the surge of energy, the familiar rush of power flowing through her. Visions flashed in her mind, distant worlds, ancient battles, the rise and fall of empires. The artifact was showing her things, guiding her towards something. But what? And then she saw it, a brief, fleeting image that sent a chill down her spine. Corrin, standing over her fallen crew, the artifact glowing in his hands, its power twisted and dark. Alya's eyes snapped open, her breath coming in sharp, shallow gasps. The vision faded, but the warning remained. Corrin was dangerous, more dangerous than she had realized. His ambition would lead him down a dark path, and if she didn't stop him, he would betray them all. She had to act. The next day, Alya called a meeting with her senior officers. They gathered in the briefing room, their faces reflecting the growing tension aboard the ship. Thane, Mira, Kalen, and Dr. Hendricks all looked to her for direction, their trust in her unwavering. But Corrin was absent. "I won't mince words," Alya began, her voice calm but firm. "There's been unrest in the Alliance. General Corrin's ambition is becoming a problem." Thane frowned, his arms crossed. "I knew he was trouble from the moment we brought him aboard." "Corrin's obsession with the artifact is dangerous," Alya continued. "He wants to use it as a weapon without understanding the risks, and if we're not careful, he could tear this alliance apart." Mira leaned forward, her expression concerned. "Do you think he would act against us?" Alya hesitated, her mind flashing back to the vision she had seen. "I don't know, but we can't afford to wait and find out. We need to keep him under close watch. If he tries anything, we'll stop him." Kalen, who had been silent throughout the meeting, finally spoke up. "And what if he doesn't try anything? What if he's just misguided?" Alya met his gaze. "Then we try to bring him back, but we can't let him jeopardize everything we've built." The others nodded in agreement, though the tension in the room remained thick. They all knew that Corrin was a ticking time bomb, and the only question was when he would go off. That night, Alya found herself unable to sleep. The artifact's whispers had grown louder, more insistent. She could feel it pushing her, guiding her towards something she didn't understand. And at the heart of it all was Corrin. She knew what she had to do. The seeds of betrayal had already been planted. And if she didn't act soon, the alliance would be torn apart. The tension in the stellar dawn was suffocating. Alya could feel it in every corridor, in every glance exchanged between her crew. Whispers of General Corrin's growing ambition had spread like wildfire, and the fragile unity of the alliance was on the brink of shattering. But none of that mattered now. The Vraath were coming, and with them, the endgame for Earth. Alya stood on the bridge, staring at the stars. Somewhere out there, beyond the edge of known space, the Vraath fleet was gathering. They hadn't attacked immediately after their retreat from Earth. They had bided their time, regrouping, amassing their forces for one final assault. The question wasn't if they would come, it was when. "Captain," Thane said from the tactical console, his voice tight with tension. "We've picked up movement on long-range sensors. It's the Vraath. A massive fleet. They're heading straight for us. Alya felt a cold knot form in her stomach. How long? 2 hours, maybe less, Thane replied, his eyes dark with worry. And, Captain, it's worse than we expected. This isn't just an invasion force. They've brought their full armada. Alya's heart pounded in her chest. The Vraath weren't holding anything back this time. This was their final push, their bid to crush humanity once and for all. Send word to the fleet, Alya ordered. Everyone to battle stations. I want all ships in defensive formation. Prepare for full engagement. Thane nodded and relayed the orders, but Alya could see the fear in his eyes. The alliance was barely holding together as it was. They had fought skirmishes, defended outposts, but this was an all-out war, and she wasn't sure they were ready. As the bridge erupted in activity, Mira appeared at Alya's side, her expression grim. Captain, we need to talk. Now. Alya nodded and motioned for Mira to follow her into the briefing room. Once the door slid shut behind them, Mira didn't waste any time. It's Corran, Mira said, her voice low but urgent. He's making a move. Alya's blood ran cold. What kind of move? Mira glanced at the door, as if expecting Corran to burst in at any moment. I've intercepted communications between him and several of the mercenary leaders. He's planning to take control of the fleet. Alya's heart pounded in her ears. He wants a coup. Mira nodded. He's convinced that you're not willing to use the artifact to its full potential. He thinks he can win the war if he controls it. Alya clenched her fists, fury surging through her. Where is he now? In the cargo bay, near the artifact, Mira said. He's got a small group of his loyalists with him. They're preparing to seize the artifact and force you out. Alya took a deep breath, trying to keep her emotions in check. She had seen this coming. Corran's ambition, his obsession with the artifact, it had always been there, simmering beneath the surface. And now, with the Vraath closing in, he saw his chance to take control. But Alya wasn't going to let him. Get Thane, Alya said, her voice hard, and tell him to bring a security team. We're ending this. Now. Alya, Thane, Mira, and a squad of heavily armed security officers moved swiftly through the corridors of the Stellar Dawn. The tension was palpable, and Alya's heart raced as they approached the cargo bay where the artifact was stored. She had to stop Corran before he could make his move, before he could tear the alliance apart from within. As they neared the bay, Alya motioned for the team to halt. She pressed a button on her comm and patched through to the ship-wide intercom. Corran, Alya's voice echoed through the ship, calm but deadly. I know what you're planning. You won't succeed. Stand down now, and I'll show you mercy. For a long moment, there was nothing but silence. Then, Corran's voice crackled through the comm. Captain Trent, you've lost your nerve. You don't understand the power we have at our fingertips. You're too afraid to use it, but I'm not. Alya gritted her teeth. If you take the artifact, you'll doom us all. You don't understand what it's capable of. Oh, I understand it, Corran replied, his voice dripping with arrogance. More than you ever will, and when the Vraath arrive, I'll be ready. With the artifact, I'll crush them and take my place as the leader this alliance needs. Alya motioned for her team to move forward. This is your last chance, Corran. Surrender now. Corran laughed, the sound cold and bitter. You should be thanking me, Captain. I'm saving you from yourself. The cargo bay doors slid open, revealing Corran and a handful of his loyalists standing near the artifact, weapons at the ready. The artifact pulsed softly in the center of the room, its blue light casting long shadows across the walls. Corran's eyes gleamed as he stepped forward, his gaze locked on the artifact. It's beautiful, isn't it? Corran said, his voice reverent. All that power, and you've wasted it. Alya took a step forward, her heart pounding. Corran, this isn't you. The artifact is influencing you. It's twisting your mind. Corran's smile twisted into a sneer. No, Captain. It's shown me the truth. We're at war, and in war, we use every weapon we have. Alya raised her hand, signaling her team to be ready. This isn't the way. If you take the artifact, you'll destroy everything we've worked for. You'll tear the alliance apart. Corran's eyes flickered with rage. You're weak, Alya. You don't have the stomach for this. But I do. Before Alya could react, Corran lunged toward the artifact, his hand reaching out to touch it. The moment his fingers brushed the glowing surface, a surge of energy erupted from the artifact, knocking him back with a violent force. Corran screamed, clutching his head as the artifact's power coursed through him, overwhelming him. Alya watched in horror as Corrin convulsed, his body racked with pain. The artifact's light intensified, growing brighter and brighter until it was nearly blinding. Corrin's loyalists stood frozen in shock, their weapons forgotten. Then, suddenly, it stopped. Corrin collapsed to the ground, his body limp, his eyes wide with shock. The artifact's light dimmed, returning to its soft, steady pulse. Alya rushed forward, kneeling beside Corrin's still form. He was alive, but barely. He looked up at her, his face pale, his voice weak. I was wrong. It's too much, too much. Alya felt a pang of sorrow for the man who had once been a respected leader, now broken by his own ambition. It's over, Corrin. He nodded weakly, his breath shallow. I thought I could control it. I thought I could be stronger. Alya placed a hand on his shoulder, her voice gentle. No one can control the artifact. It chooses who it bonds with, and it didn't choose you. Corrin's eyes closed, his body still. Alya stood slowly, turning to face her team. We're securing the artifact, Alya said, her voice firm. No one touches it without my direct order. Understood? Thane nodded, his face grim. Understood, Captain. Hours later, Alya stood alone in her quarters, the weight of the day's events pressing down on her. Corrin's betrayal had been a close call, too close. The artifact's power was dangerous, more dangerous than she had realized, but she couldn't let it fall into the wrong hands. A soft knock at the door pulled her from her thoughts. Mira stepped inside, her expression weary but relieved. The Vraath fleet is still on its way, Mira said quietly. But we've got the Alliance ready. They're standing by for your command. Alya nodded, but her mind was elsewhere. The artifact's presence had grown stronger since Corrin's failed attempt to seize it. It was as if the artifact had bonded more deeply with her, its influence spreading through her mind, guiding her, showing her visions of what was to come. She had seen the Vraath fleet, massive, unstoppable, but she had also seen something else, something ancient and powerful, waiting just beyond the edge of her consciousness. The artifact wasn't just a tool or a weapon, it was a gateway. And Alya knew, deep down, that she had been chosen for something far greater than a simple war. I'll take the bridge, Alya said, her voice steady. The Vraath are coming, and we're going to meet them head-on. Mira hesitated, then nodded. I'll be right there with you, Captain. As Mira left the room, Alya took one last look at the artifact, its soft blue light pulsing in the darkness. The Vraath were coming, but Alya was no longer afraid. She was ready.